All right.
Wait, one thing we forgot um, as we were texting each other, and you don't have to share the context of your text, but
Okay.
as far as for the Nazi dog, I completely forgot to mention, and I'm glad you reminded me
Yes.
that my aunt has a collie shepherd uh, adopted dog. Is that the term?
Yeah. Adopted. Yeah.
Right, because foster, you're like the bridge.
Yeah. You're temporary.
Right. Okay. So my aunt. So we were talking about the Nazi dog on the last episode about um, Larry David because we were still developing the title,
Yeah.
working title.
In
So they say,
progress.
right. So they say in the movie industry, the working title of Jovan and Charles's Larry David segment.
Yeah. To be named.
Right.
Yeah.
But just to recap, Larry David was opening up a spite store,
Hmm.
and he was hiring a German guy who could keep the mugs hot because that was his number one complaint
Yeah.
with the spite store with Mocha Joe's. And then the guy that he's hiring as a designer and developer actually had a dog that was snarling. Or would that be growling?
Growling.
Right, it was
Well, both.
growling.
It did both.
Larry David, right?
Yeah.
And and his name was Adolf. But you can take a look at that later on. But basically, it was determined by Larry David that it was a racist dog,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But for me, I forgot to give this information. My aunt, my mother's side sister, who lived in West Covina in the '80s, had adopted a collie and German
Okay.
Shepherd mix.
Okay.
And when we would frequently visit her, this is when I was still either living in New York or Manila. I don't even remember because it. Anyways,
Uh.
um, the dog when we would walk it would trip out and bark and snarl and growl like
Mm.
almost salivating
Uh huh.
whenever it'd see black people.
Oh. Yeah. I'm not surprised by that. I actually encountered something similar like that too a couple times. And but the dogs I knew wouldn't snarl or growl. They would avoid black people. Like if a black person tried to pet the dog would just kind of like not like ignore them, and like they want to make eye contact with the dog. Dog's just not having it, just like looking around, like not focusing. And I was like, oh, stop it, don't do that, that's not nice. He's
was,
an
was
dog.
it sheepish the way he would do it, or is it more like snobbish?
It looked more snobby. It was two dogs. It was the dog that I used to have, the overlord dog that I used to have, and then my friend's dog. And they're both like part. I think they're both like poodleish kind of dogs. So maybe something about that. Those poodle like dogs. They don't like black. Maybe okay. Small sample size, but yeah, it's interesting. You see patterns and you're like, oh, that's not a good pattern at all.
Right, because my aunt's dog, his name was Toby.
That's right. We're like that Kunter.
The freedom seeking collie shepherd. Um, he it's either when you have experienced trauma. What I've seen with dogs is either they run away or they shy away or they
Hmm.
get aggressive. This dog was ready to attack.
Oh yeah, maybe the dogs I knew were the other side. It's kind of weird.
Right, right. So yeah, so that's one thing we Jovan and I forgot to throw in the last episode where it's very hard to determine if it's race or trauma, or it could be a
Uh-huh.
little bit of both.
Yeah.
Drive either or.
Yeah, or just arbitrary. I mean, maybe we saw a pattern that wasn't necessarily there, right? Maybe he just was standoffish amongst towards other people, but we just didn't pick up on it until it was a very obvious trait that the people that we saw in
Y-
or in
Yeah, I'd love to pull my friend John. He's a very dark Filipino, and I'd like to see if Toby would try to kill him and
it's like
decapitate him.
yeah, it's like you're doing an experiment, but it's not technically to see whether or not it's causation or correlation.
Right, and there's that theory, right, that sometimes correlation does not
Yeah,
prove
it's not
causation,
causation. Yeah.
right? So that's a good point. But yeah, so as far as for dealing with the internet, I've been doing a lot more Zoom meetings,
Uh-huh.
as I'd like for you to share also for
Mhm.
what you do.
Mhm.
But um, I want to run this by you, and I know we didn't prep about this, but do you think people like in radio, or even to where like my friend who works as a graphic designer, Nathan, who works at home,
Mhm.
do you think there are our businesses going to change and eventually think about like that overhead?
Uh, do you mean that it would negatively impact, like it would cause things to go more expensive or cheaper?
Or in the sense of, hey, I could do this at home, or you could
Yeah.
do this if I'm the employer. It'll
Mhm.
save me more money.
Yes and yeah.
Depends. It's situational, right?
Yeah, because it depends on productivity, right? Like if they feel like um their person is outputting and it doesn't seem to be any different from the work versus at home, then yeah, it would change the way they do it. But that also brings up a host of other things like technology, having people like support the online stuff. So when you could do it in the office before and everything would stay IP, like intellectual property or something that they're working on, they can more easily um, contain it leaking. I guess there's like some sort of security protocol
Sure.
with having everything in one place versus being able to access things remotely and or transmitting things digitally would I would imagine have uh, an impact on security of your property.
Right. So I'm a Mac user, and whenever I
Hmm.
launch this Zoom program, it asks me how I want to invite you or other people.
Hmm.
And what I do is I choose the Yahoo email program.
Yeah.
Even though I set it to default that it would use Chrome, my Safari browser would pop up.
Hmm.
And I just recently set it to private because before, even with you and the other previous people I would Zoom with,
Uh-huh.
it would I would get messages like on Yahoo, like here's your temporary password.
Huh.
So people were trying to break in.
Oh
A-
wow.
And I used to even use Facebook, but it would pop up via the Safari browser versus Google Chrome.
Oh.
And now that I set all my Safari to private, now I'm not getting those error messages.
Oh, is that the whole Zoom security thing?
Yep,
Oh, okay. Because I didn't know how it was people were breaking into rooms or being able to enter rooms because I've always been the person invited to instead of
sure.
the one sending it out. So now I understand. So evidently there's some sort of is it that the Zoom default is that it's a public room? Is that
Or it's the login.
oh
They
okay.
they derive it from the method of login. So when I launch Zoom, I have the option to connect via Facebook or email.
Okay.
And it would just automatically open up Safari. But now I set Safari to private browsing all the time. So I have to
Okay.
log in.
Okay. So you just have a little bit more layers of security on your part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but
Um,
but go ahead. You're gonna ask
I
something.
was gonna say the security thing was a big deal for my work. I work for the state, and they would prefer us not to use Zoom because of the security thing. So we have Microsoft Teams, I think. But that's but I feel like Zoom has a better functionality because you can see everybody that's in the room. Like so if you
Sure.
have 20 people, you can see all 20 people. But I think Microsoft Teams only allows 4 at a time. At max. And then everybody else is like small icons on the bottom. So Zoom I think is probably there's good and bad. Zoom is like very friendly towards a lot of people, but then and more probably more features, but less security. And then the more secure you get, the less cool stuff I guess you get.
Right. And to me, at least I found a combative way. So for you who's listening, just whatever browser that pops up via your Facebook or your email, make sure it's set on private,
Mm.
and then you're good. I had like 4 Yahoo login attempts,
Oh wow. Okay.
and
So
and 2 Facebook attempts. The 2 times that I've used Facebook to log in with Zoom,
mm,
people try to grab my password.
jeez. Oh well, good thing you're telling. Okay, listening audience, there's some tips for you.
Right, totally, totally. So speaking of that, I sent you that link coming from Coast. of all people, Coast 103.5, which is like this easy listening station
Oh,
here
really?
in LA, and it's about the news anchor Alfonso Merlos. So what he was doing, he was hosting a live show on YouTube, and then it created like this large scandal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's because the 41-year-old spoke behind him. There was a woman that was walking around, which I think we'll talk about it later. It
Okay.
looked like she was like bottomless,
I think so too. I
right?
couldn't tell from certain articles because they blurred her out completely. So
Totally.
I couldn't tell. But then I think when I saw a more detailed video.
So his girlfriend Alfonso is Marta Lopez,
Mm-hmm.
but who we saw in the video was um, a journalist named Alexia Rivas.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and share that screen for us real quick, and we'll do a play-by-play after in regards to what took place.
Okay.
Insisto, algunas tan nobles y con tanta fuerza y tan importantes como la Benemérita.
Oh man.
But do you think so? There's a reaction of
Mm-hmm.
the guy that Alfonso was talking to.
Uh-huh.
Do you think he saw her, or was that an edit?
Uh, he probably did, but I think because it happened so fast, I don't know if he really saw anything. Do you want to replay it again?
Yeah, sure.
Insisto, algunas tan nobles y con tanta fuerza y tan importantes como la
Boom.
Benemérita.
You think that's his thing? Or I think they freezed it. I think they freezed it. What do you? I think they just froze his face, but I
For all we care, it was just that moment we was about to speak.
yeah,
Like he was
exactly.
reacting.
Yeah,
Right?
and maybe he saw it, but then of course the guy, the what do you call the guy? Anchor guy, the journalist, he was speaking, so I'm sure he was also trying to pay attention as well. So I think if he saw it, it'd be like, whoa, and then he went back to what he had to do at times. I mean, if she was walking towards him, I'd probably be like, oh my god, what the hell is happening? This is
Totally.
crazy. Yeah.
And the article states that there were other people involved in the media where they have grown parents, like people like our group, and then they have grown parents, like a mom was topless.
Oh, really? Oh my god.
Coming out of the shower, stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I think this is where you and I would share these texts from years ago, even before my dad got sick. This is kind of like idiocracy happening.
Well, I don't know if it's idiocracy. I think it's just not being aware. I don't think they're purposely doing it. I just think people are just not aware. Like, I was kind of aware of my junk over here. I'm just not really thinking about it. I'm thinking about, oh, I have to talk to Charles. Not like, oh, I gotta clean the shit back there. No. And at the same time, they're both journalists, so maybe she just thought, oh, I'm not in the shot, but she didn't care to think about it more. I mean, she wasn't walking around like a dummy. Like, she kind of walked with purpose.
Maybe because I've cheated on girlfriends before. What I'm talking about is, hey, I'm doing a YouTube live session. Do not come out.
Okay.
If you do come out, I'll be in this room. Go this route, or just be in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, especially with her being. I mean, you and I can safely say she looked like she only had a bra on and was bottomless, right?
Yeah. Or if she maybe she did, but it looks like she's naked on the bottom.
Let's say it was a tan skin color matching
panty,
right?
Yeah.
But still, at that point, I would be so cautious because whenever a guy is talking to someone, especially in this age that she's a journalist,
okay,
she should be aware that Zoom, live, and internet-based meetings are all happening.
Sure. Okay.
Right?
Okay. I understand that, and I understand we're in a different time now that you should be conscious of those things. But I don't know. I still feel like it was definitely they're dumb on them, right? Dumb on them for getting caught. But I kind of this one is I kind of go yes they were just stupid. It wasn't like the racist couple making that TikTok video about NIGGER. Like that's a very purposeful video, right? You can
Right.
say that. This was just like a bonehead thing, right?
Maybe it might be better if I said that there are stratifications to the
Yeah.
idiocracy.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Let's do that.
TikTok is like that's the Maybach, that's the
Yeah.
that's the
That's
Lamborghini.
you're in idiocracy. Is it Hector Elizondo, Mountain Dew?
Right.
Yeah.
Nice reference.
Yeah.
And then there's this where we're about 8 weeks. Well, depending if you're following March 15th,
Yeah.
we are officially like almost like 7 weeks in.
Yeah.
And you know that this is happening. And by the way, I have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You are my side piece.
Especially the funny thing is that they're journalists, right? So it's like a scoop. You're scooping yourself.
Right.
It's insane. But it was funny. I looked at pictures of the girlfriend and her, and I was like, I think the girlfriend's prettier. But that's just pretty. Maybe she's a bitch. I don't know. But,
Or yeah, that's so spot on of you. Sometimes guys become betas in relationships
oh, okay.
because
So,
the wife or the girlfriend is like pretty,
mhm.
and maybe because she is established as like the lead or
The more popular of
the
the
pant
couple.
wearer of the relationship.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you just need to be above your side piece so much to where it's like, you know what?
Oh.
You're just my side piece. I'm gonna treat you like flank steak. My ribeye, my bone-in ribeye is a bitch. But
Oh, yeah.
flank steak, this is how I'm gonna treat you.
And when you say that, it makes me think about the fact that she's a journalist and she's young, and he's a journalist and he's older. So maybe he feels like that. You're right with the whole. He feels more authoritative than her, or like he's a leader for her, and so he's able to feel like a man, kind of macho. Like, oh, I'm so much more like experienced than her, and so I'm mentoring her, both professionally and in the bedroom, I guess.
Why do you think my dad dated someone 13 years younger?
I
You
mean,
know, to feel
I
far more superior.
yeah, but then that was also a different time back then when I think
13 years is like 3 years.
no, well, more like women were the stature that they sought is different. Back then we were all kind of like we had to get married and have husbands. So we're all looking for a man. But now I think more women are independent. So I I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking nowadays people that want to be in relationships should just be in a relationship because they want to be in the relationship with the person. Whereas before it was a pressure to be with somebody. So, you seek it, and men had their way with anybody at that time.
Right. Make it an urge and desire, not over a timely, forceful
Yeah, like
method, right?
let me just settle with anybody because I'm desperate. Yeah, no, yeah. So,
But you know what? I feel like from my experience, I used to love dating younger girls,
mm-hmm,
but in like my mid to early 30s, I thought 20 is fine, 22 is fine.
uh-huh,
But as I started turning 41,
mm-hmm,
like if I were to equate the gap and move it to like 27, 28, which is that reporter's age group,
mm-hmm.
dude, a lot of them are a little bit lost, more lost than the 27-year-old of my era.
Yeah, I think
Or am I
yeah.
being completely sexist there?
No, I feel like there's a
Or
lag these
ageist?
days. No, yeah, maybe ageist, but I think there is a lag. Um, well, first of all, as you get older, I think your tolerance for youth gets a little diminished. Like, oh god, these dum dums. Like, I can't deal with it anymore.
Sure.
But I do think there's more of a delay now towards maturity. So, like, people that are in their late 20s, they're still kind of, it's like arrested development. Like, they're not quite getting there in maturity. So with you aging and then with the people not getting more mature, you get even more irritated with that. You're like thinking, get it together a little bit, but they're not even close to getting a further along in adulthood.
I honestly feel it's harder to mature in this internet era. It
Yeah.
really is, because I'm even me as a 40 turning 45 in 2020. Um, I feel like I'm way too distracted.
Really?
I'm way too distracted. Like, I mean, honestly, I feel like if I didn't have to do, if I didn't want to pursue radio, which if I was on Instagram, like you're infrequent
Mhm.
on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Like I would be at your pace
If you were not. Okay. So
into podcasting,
mhm.
radio, blah, blah, blah.
So you need it. You need it for it to do what you're pursuing.
But it's easy to get caught up on this time suck where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just looking up this girl,
Uh-huh.
right? And then you're on Weather Girls and you're checking out the weather in Mexico. Then you're looking up Mexican food. Then you're looking at maybe when everything's settled, I want to go to Tulum.
So you're easily distractible.
And then I started looking up, just for the hell of it, condo prices in Mexico versus condo prices in Fort Bonifacio in the Philippines. And I'm converting this.
Oh my god.
That took like 47 minutes of just
I needed to look for a
trying to
picture.
prep. And that's not even talking about the Larry David stuff, which we're going to
Yeah.
seg into, and the other
Mhm.
topic that you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. It is easy. It is easier to get distracted these days. I don't even. I think my parents are even like that. You know, because now that they know how to use Google and everything, it
They do, honey. They
yeah.
do.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, it's their favorite thing. Google whether or not something is true or not, so you could rub it in someone's face if
Right.
you find out something is wrong that they said. Yeah, they like doing the Google. But I just yeah, you so when you're saying that you're easily distracted, are you likening it to this dude and his cheating ways or is it I
That is focus, which
okay.
they're almost like, to the context of what we're talking, they're almost
Mhm.
like kissing cousins of each
Mm,
other.
okay.
It's focus because it's like, look, man, this is a professional interview. Dress up at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Or well, maybe that's also his fault too. Like he could have done a better job of framing like with a wall rather than
Both of them, sure.
oh man.
Put an XLR cable on your shoulder
Yeah, do
so it
so.
looks like, and they carry a recorder so it looks like if we get caught, it's not like, hey, no, I was just going over articles with her.
Yeah. Yeah, just try to put some clothes on at least when you're walking in the background.
Yeah, so I think it's really difficult. It's really
Yeah.
difficult. I know for a fact that maybe if I have an aunt who's gets into Google like you, what is Charlie's number? She's probably gonna Google it just for internet fucking flexing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not find it, but I tried to Google
Yeah,
him.
yeah, exactly. I tried to find it. It's like, okay, at least the effort, A for effort on that. Didn't quite get there, but got it.
I won't put this person's name on blast, but this person was laughing at this one post about the African president. He was really mispronouncing, like he couldn't read like 280,000. He was
Uh-huh.
reading it like 200,000 and 80,000, but he didn't know how to read it. But some guy, some guy with an African accent, uh, made it seem like he couldn't read in the beginning. So I'll play the audio first, right?
Okay.
In the beginning, yeah, in the in in the in the beginning, yeah, in the beginning, in the beginning, in the beginning, in the
It's still
beginning,
going. It's not looping.
in the
3 more seconds.
in the beginning.
Here, take a look at this on the video. Wait.
Is it?
In the beginning.
Is it for real? Is this real? or is they just made fun of it?
It made fun of it because he couldn't pronounce like 280,000.
In the beginning.
Oh, it's messed up, man. It so sucks.
Yeah. In the beginning.
Guys,
That's the best though, dude.
the internet is so savage. You cannot make one mistake because then you get eviscerated for all of time. All of time. That's funny though. I can't
It's
do that.
fucking great, dude. And
I
the way,
know. Huh?
and the way the VO guy messed up, like the way he would mess up, it was so like he would mess up in and then beginning and then but pronounce the and then he couldn't pronounce the, he would pronounce the first and the in a beginning.
I mean, that's a great word to pick because it is tricky. Like if you were just looking at it and you don't know English, that thing is hard. Like there's so many G's and I's and N's. You're like, I can't. What? So it's perfect the way that they did it, and that's why I'm sure lots of Filipinos would find that so funny for some reason. I feel like
That's the sense of humor, dude.
yeah, we have a lot of sense about pronunciation. Like we're very.
Have you seen Patrice O'Neal's Elephant in the Room?
No, well, I might have, but I might have forgotten.
There's a part where he goes, fuck, man, I'm so old. I don't even know how to spell because all my spelling years, I used it for fucking being a thug. So it's like if his mom was being hostage, it's like, go ahead, spell banana. B-A-N-A-B-A-N-N-N-N-N. I couldn't do it.
Oh my God, that's pretty good.
But you know what I fear though, Jovan?
Oh,
Is
no,
there's a nation or a planet of quarantine kids being taught by parents like that.
Yeah, it's now. Well, I don't know if.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Oh my God.
Imagine like in a Filipino math fucking class. Okay, 1 Carabao plus 2 cats.
Oh.
And 1 monkey. How many animals is that?
How many feet? You're like, ay, nako.
2 Carabaos. Okay, 2 Carabaos. 2! 2 monkeys.
Oh man. Yeah, we might have some dummies now because of this whole quarantine. A lot of people aren't trying to do their work though, right? I mean, they kind of just chalk it up to loss.
Dude, I had to take statistics twice and pre-cal twice. That took 4 years.
Oh, Charles.
Dude, I was in junior college for 5 years because of math.
No, you were not. Were
Yes.
You really? Oh,
yes.
no, you needed a tutor.
Dude, this is what happened, right? So I went back to PCC and decided, you know what? Fuck radio. I was on this graphic design.
Okay.
This new internet thing.
Okay.
This is like 96, I want to say.
Okay.
And so I'd already taken all my math beforehand. So thankfully, I took college algebra first.
Okay.
Passed that in 1 semester. With barely a B minus, by the way. I got an 80.
Yeah. Right on the edge. All right.
Right. So I've messed up because I wanted to major in marketing and graphic design. I didn't realize, I thought you just took pre-cal. But I could have just taken statistics.
Statistics is not that easy.
Well, I know because I got an F the first time dude, the second time I got a C minus.
Oh, you barely passed.
Dude, with calculus, with pre-cal, I didn't know. I should have just stuck with the D because I only got a C minus for the second time I took it with the same professor who gave me the worst fucking look. Like, what are you taking this for? Turns out I didn't even need to take pre-cal.
Oh my gosh. He's looking at you like you're Asian. How come you're not good at this, man?
In the beginning.
2 plus 2. Sorry.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude, I'm scared that the kids are gonna need to adjust to like true teaching.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, in a way, because we're towards the end of the school year, I think they are just trying to chalk it up to loss. Like, but if they were to try to go just start back up in the fall, yeah, I don't know. There might be some very important math that they missed during these 2 to 3 months that we might be stuck.
Okay, last year you were grade 1. Now you're grade 1B.
Repeat. Well, you won't call it one though. It will be 1B.
The second first grade.
Second, first grade.
And then imagine like batch of 2030 or whatever. It's like the age range completely changes. It's like 19 and 20-year-olds.
Well, it would liken it more to a college experience. They're like, that's what we're trying. We're trying to make it so you guys can transition into college easier.
I'm more mature. That was my war. COVID-19.
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
Fuck.
Well, that's them. Let's see. Come on, kids, prove us wrong.
Totally. But you know how you texted me
Mm-hmm.
about the article on mentioning the words COVID, or what's the other term?
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
I had problems uploading the Lakers mixtape
Oh,
audiogram on YouTube,
okay.
and we did not one time did we ever mention a pandemic, Corona, or COVID. So,
Huh.
I know for a fact that there's really good intuition for you to share that article,
Mm-hmm.
because YouTube is now cracking down big time. But maybe you can just cite and share on the screen where you grab that article from,
Yeah.
and just read the header for me. There's good
Yeah.
old Mr. Loverboy.
Okay, now on the Verge website, there's an article that is titled "YouTube is demonetizing videos about coronavirus and creators are mad." It's a long-standing issue between the creator community and YouTube. So it's basically going through the whole issue that I think you touched on. So go ahead and explain if you'd like to.
Sure. As far as for what I derived off that,
Mhm.
really the underpinning is about YouTube controlling things now. What the biggest thing, what's happening, Jovan, is for content creators, YouTube is no longer that channel or outlet to where we can actually be ourselves anymore.
Oh, you mean I've heard the good and the bad of it.
Yeah, and honestly, that all of that article is to technically freeze people to scaring people, not being so negative.
Mm-hmm.
But there are here's a classic example. Here's for you who's listening. I love working with Jovan because she's very smart, but we also had very good chemistry off the bat,
Yeah.
right? So we've established, or you've helped me establish, and in my copious obsession of looking on the internet, that the COVID is really from the transferring of bats and pangolins to being consumed by people who eat it, right?
Okay.
But what I'm deriving, and I'm not trying to be this tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist about it,
Mhm.
is I feel like that's just Star Wars Episode 4. There's a prequel, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was lab created that got to
Uh-huh.
the animals.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
but we don't know. But what's concrete is it came from
The wet market.
bats and pangolins.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So for me, I just feel like it's too coincidental that the two doctors in China that was warning the world is no longer existent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all suspect, or maybe not you, but like meaning the obsessive people like me,
Mhm.
suspect that Chinese government is
Yeah.
lying.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of
Numbers wise.
yeah, I think Vice did a piece on that. Now Vice is now on Showtime. They cut ties with HBO, and
Interesting.
they did a segment on the the media in China being suppressed because they're the ones that are doing all the expose, I guess you can call it, on how Wuhan was. They're the ones that would first put out that Wuhan was on lockdown and they closed the wet market, and then they went into the hospitals, and the people that were actually broadcasting and the journalists that were actually putting it out there for the world to see, because it was straight to the world rather than filtered by the Chinese government at that time, is they were showing like the dire situation when China was trying to play it down, like, oh no, we got it under control and all this other stuff. So yeah, I'm not surprised that those people that spoke up, the Chinese journalists, yeah, they're all disappearing, right?
Yeah. So to spin it more positively, or at least not on death and pandemics,
Mm-hmm.
um, what do you think about my theory on YouTube where they're starting to crack down and they're really becoming like this its own internet government of output of content?
I'm mixed on this demonetization of coronavirus COVID coverage. I see the benefit of doing it because you don't want people to be spreading things that are wrong just to get clicks and get money. um I feel like it is a responsible thing to do because you're trying to make sure that the stuff on the website, the stuff on Facebook is not, if people aren't monetizing off of it for negative things, right? But at the same time, I also see it like, well, YouTube doesn't have to pay them for all the entertainment that people are clicking on now because they have nothing else to do. So let's just go watch videos on YouTube. So I see both the good and the bad of it. And I'm one of those people that, because I work for the government too, it's like they had to do something to make sure that the bad actors are not um, profiting off of, like, misery or death or
Or just fear
misinformation.
monger.
Yeah, fear mongering, exactly. Misinformation and fear mongering. That, I think, is ultimately, I see that better as the better end than, oh, but they just don't want to pay people, like, to depict this.
Totally.
How
Well,
about you?
well, for me, I just feel like it's now going to head towards more competition. As I've
Mm,
mentioned to you via text, that's why there's a lot of broadcasters switching over to Twitch,
Twitch?
which
Yeah,
I haven't even touched.
yeah. I have no experience with Twitch either. But if they are claiming they are going to be a more free avenue for creators, I mean, I think they're going to run into the same problems that YouTube did. So we'll
As
see
it
how that
becomes a
happens.
giant on its own, right?
Right, right. I mean, in a way, because like what happened with Congress, they made Facebook and people, these companies, liable for the things that they're distributing amongst a lot in the world. I don't think it's like Periscope. I think Periscope was like free, was a free market too, and then they started to realize, oh no, like people are doing bad things on we have to monitor and regulate. So I don't I even if Twitch does claim to be a free platform for freedom of expression, freedom of creation, I think they're eventually going to run into something bad.
Yeah, because I'm obsessive with martial arts too,
Mm-hmm.
and I watch like they don't obviously it doesn't get filmed because no one's filming like a live knife fight. If there's a robbery and
Yeah.
there's like let's say slashings, they show images pretty brutally
Eesh,
on
yeah.
YouTube, so stuff like that, or I'll watch like street fights where some of it is pretty bad, I would say.
They have street fights on YouTube. Like, what am I saying? They probably have everything on YouTube. But
Right, yeah, yeah, totally.
what's the
So
worst thing you saw on YouTube?
I don't even know if this was pre-YouTube. YouTube was established in '05, so it wasn't. Okay. I was gonna say I saw one of those beheadings.
Oh yeah, the Middle East one. Yeesh.
Pretty bad. But even on YouTube, I've seen, even though the people look like this small,
Uh huh.
I saw like a guy with his on his hands and knees getting beheaded and the
Yeesh.
head just rolling.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
One time.
what? What happened to the doom and gloom talk that we were trying to avoid? No, I don't
Totally.
think we're totally beyond that. But yeah, I see good and bad of regulation, and because we have to save each other from ourselves sometimes. I mean, some people just don't have a good sense of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate to put out there.
And God knows how many of these quarantine kids are gonna come out fucking straight in the head.
Ugh, jeez.
Like, don't you think what part of the reason why our parents, which our parents are boomers, right?
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of why they're like that and very stubborn and set in their ways, aside from not having the internet, is because they experience like wars,
Yeah.
and this is like a biological war that
Yeah.
these kids are experiencing.
This is like the most real thing they've had to really deal with that affects everybody around them. But then they have this way to escape it, the internet and movies, and like it's more readily available to try to shut the world out. So I mean, who knows how it will be very interesting to see in like 20 years how these kids matriculate through and get to adulthood. Ooh, I don't know.
Totally. Uh, ready to wrap this one up with our final seg?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Have you thought of anything to call it? Curb
Man.
lessons, Larry lessons.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We could go in so many different directions that
Sure.
it's hard to figure out at this point. But let's just wait. Let's do curb lessons for now, since
Sure.
we've got this. Do you want to set it up?
Sure. So basically, Ben Stiller is playing himself, and his wife is playing herself, and they are starting to become good friends with Larry David, and at that time married to his pre-divorce Cheryl.
Yeah.
So to sum things up even quicker, Ben Stiller sneezes, and keep in mind, people, viewers and listeners, this is pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So he sneezes and he covers. The intention is to be polite when you cover your nose and mouth with your hand.
Yeah.
So, which we will dissect, which you
Okay.
brilliantly do, Jovan. And we'll see what happens as we dissect the video.
All right, here we go.
Actually, I see Brian and Lee. We should go say hi. Oh, bless you.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're just
Hey, well, whatever happens, happens, right? Good to see you.
Hit pause.
Claire, good luck. This is a big decision.
Sorry.
Take care.
Oh, yeah. So Ben Stiller extends out his hand after he sneezes into it.
Yeah.
Okay. At this point, I wouldn't shake that hand.
No.
You wouldn't?
I don't know. I think the nice person in me would, just because I don't like confrontation.
Maybe the 20s version of Charles would.
You're
Anything past
that already?
31, 32? No, I wouldn't. So Ben extended his hand, and Larry decided to pat him on the shoulder on the opposite side, would made the gesture even more prominent, like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
not shaking your hand.
Yeah, which is brilliant, but we'll get into that later.
Sure.
Tonight?
Yeah. Good luck. Whatever happens.
Ben, so good to see you.
And we'll talk about apartments
I'm
if you
sure
need
we're
to.
all
Whatever
gonna be,
happens. I know.
seeing each other.
I'll say I'll check it out.
Each other lives. Okay.
Okay.
Hit pause
Bye.
for me. So Cheryl
Uh-huh.
reaches out to give him a kiss, and it's almost like a mutual
Yeah.
bodily motion. And Ben at that point decided to just pat Cheryl on the shoulder.
Oh, did she?
Yeah,
I
we'll
thought
watch it again. We'll watch it
Okay.
again.
All right. Well,
And then we'll conclude the video before we play it the second time as to how Cheryl talks to Larry.
okay. So, you want to keep
Just
going?
press
or-
play. Yeah.
Okay.
What is wrong with you?
What are you talking about?
Why didn't you shake his hand? He put his hand out for you.
He sneezed all over his hand. But he just sneezed.
How rude is that?
You didn't notice anything.
He put his hand out for you to
Oh,
shake it.
please.
Of course he noticed that. Everyone noticed
I'm not gonna
that.
shake his hand. He's got snot all over it. Come on.
Actually, I see
Do I
Brian
hit
and
pause?
Lee.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to watch it one more time or?
Oh, well, okay, yeah, let's watch it one more time.
Okay,
Sorry
let's
about the levels. It accidentally went really loud, but
Yeah.
we'll
We're doing what we can.
yeah. Let me make sure that it's really. Oh, see, it went back up to really high. Okay.
We should go say hi. Oh,
Oh,
bless you. Bless you.
Good to see you, Christine.
Yeah,
See you
we're
later.
just.
Hey, well, whatever happens, happens, right? Good to see you.
Larry, good luck. This is a big decision. Take care.
I'll watch it tonight. I'll think about it, yeah.
Good luck. Whatever happens.
Ben, so good to see you.
And we'll talk about apartments
I'm
if you
sure
need
we're
to.
all gonna
Whatever
be,
happens. I know.
Seeing each
I'll
other.
say I'll check it out.
Each
Yeah.
other's lives.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
What is wrong with you?
What are you talking about?
Why didn't you shake his hand? He put his hand out for you.
He sneezed all over his hand. But he just sneezed.
How rude is that?
You didn't notice anything.
He put his hand out for you to
Oh,
shake it.
please.
Of course he noticed that. Everyone noticed
I'm not gonna
that.
shake his hand. He's got snot all over it. Come on.
Actually, I see Brian and Lee.
That's funny.
Very good.
Oh man.
So I'm Team Larry on this one.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
Full blown. I'm talking 100% Larry.
yeah. Oh well, I mentioned that I think the social pressure of me would have taken the hand and been like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom now. Just I gotta wash my hands. Like I would have done it. I would have done it. I know myself. I wish I would have said I would have been like you, but I wouldn't. I'd be lying.
Well, that's the generous, kind-hearted person. Why you're gonna get so much. You're gonna have a huge real estate in heaven. You're gonna have a Floyd Mayweather mansion
Let's
when you
hope.
get to heaven. So for me, first of all, I feel like Ben Stiller is a bitch for pouting and sneezing and then using his hand and then extending it out
Yeah.
and expecting Larry David to do that. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Second of all, I don't think Cheryl should be giving a sermon to Larry, because if you watch the video, Ben even picked up on it and goes, whether it's against his will or not, I'm just going to pat Cheryl on the shoulder and give her a kiss.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. So even at that instant, he already knows that it's the wrong thing to do, albeit maybe morally not a plus on his end. And I don't think Cheryl has the right to give him shit, to give Larry shit. Your
Oh.
thoughts?
Okay, so my initial thought was Larry did it so expertly, like trying to avoid the handshake and just did the shoulder pat. I would have taken that equally if I was Ben Stiller. I would have been like, "Oh, that's just it's an acknowledgement. It's like it's almost the equivalent of a handshake. I don't see any real difference. I just need the acknowledgement that we're parting ways." So I thought that was a great way for him to avoid it without making it like, "Oh, I don't want to touch your hand." He just kind of gave him the shoulder pat. Thought it was great. And I also think he is right for not wanting to shake his snotty hand. It's right. It's right. I think everybody would not want to do that. Like I said, I would not want to do that, but I would do it anyway for social acceptance and such. But I don't see anything wrong with what he did.
Off to Cheryl. What do you think? Am I incorrect, or what are your thoughts about Cheryl giving him that lecture?
I feel like it was not necessary. The lecture was not necessary. It would have been okay for her to acknowledge what happened, but not hold him so solely at fault, or that he was being a jackass for it or a jerk. Yeah, it was not necessary.
Yeah, so okay, we're pretty much in agreement.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's some part in me, without trying to paint myself as this macho guy, that would also do what you said, which you would shake the hand anyways.
Uh-huh.
Let's say if it was, not to put anyone in the spot, let's say if your dad sneezed into his hand,
Mm-hmm.
because of our relationship, I would totally shake his hand.
Okay. Is this pre-COVID or even post-COVID?
Interesting. Great segue. I think COVID has saved that to where everyone is just waving at each other or just giving each other elbow pounds at best.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah. At my work, when I had to take people in for meetings, I had to bow. We couldn't shake hands anymore.
This is when there was knowledge of COVID coming out in January, February already.
It was basically the first 2 weeks of March. We had to start doing no touch greetings. Some people would mess up and shake hands, but I was always very conscious of it. I think I was one of the more conscious people of it than other people would mess up. I would not mess up for some reason. It's weird.
Would you do a stiff torso and all hip bow where it's like
Yeah, I did a very curve. It was a curve because I mean, this is like the priest is walking past you in church. I don't know. I don't feel this feels weird. You have to because it is you when you flex at the waist, it is at the hips. It is much more. For some reason, I feel like it is more gracious than head nod or something like that. I mean, we would do these too, like, oh, we want to give you a hug, but
Like-
we're not, we can't. So.
but there's a bubble. in
Yeah,
between
yeah.
us.
It's like, oh, hug, hug. But because we want people to know that we want to, but just for precautionary reasons, not do it at all.
Here's the one thing why I wanted to bring up like this whole Larry David thing.
Mm.
But you see how even though it's in the spirit of entertainment, Larry's the bad guy, even though Ben Stiller
Is
shouldn't be extending his hand
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, we could argue that he's just as much of a jerk for doing that than that Larry is for not accepting his hand.
A lot of this
Mm-hmm.
with Curb, it's just people sometimes, and it's not that hip hop saying like, yeah, I'm just being real. It's not even that.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's just him going like, hey man, here's my reaction to that. I'm gonna pat you really hard and
Uh-huh.
acknowledge that we're saying goodbye. You know, I'm gonna kiss your wife on the cheek.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the fucking bad guy, and that always is like, I felt like even me, because you know, in the group of friends, I have a bit of a rough exterior. Let's just say that, right?
Okay.
My mouth, you know. That's why I really love Curb. Is just I feel like a lot of the times it's misunderstood because it's like this third world crab mentality, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you're driving on one lane and I'm trying to get into your lane and then I almost hit you because I didn't look,
Okay.
right? And then I get mad.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 I
So-
would do. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
I
go.
was gonna say, I would do that too, where I would get mad if I were the one that was merging. I didn't look, but I would also bring myself back to it, like, oh, that was my fault too, so I can't really get too mad.
But it's also a cultural thing where with previous generations, even our current generation, where that's prevalent, where culpability leaves when it's not according to what you desire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think the reaction, the split second reaction is anger, but then when you can step back from the anger, you can evaluate and be like, oh wait, that was my fault. I can take responsibility for it. But I think we're living more so in a country that people don't want to be accountable for anything that they do anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've observed that in the world though, like that happens in the Philippines all the time. Like
Oh yeah, so
The
it's not
road-
just the United States.
no, not it's just I'm not getting my way, therefore I'm angry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like this whole thing with the people protesting that they can't go back to normal life. It's like they're trying to save your life. Like, why are you getting angry at them just because you're inconvenienced for, a week more or 2 more weeks? Come on, people.
Right. And it's such an ancillary protest. It's about the beach, not about employment or struggling.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Or like, yeah, healthcare or anything. It's like, no, we can't go to the beach or we can't go to restaurants and bars. It's like, dude, this is for your own good. Why are you getting mad?
It's like the parental version of the kids who chose to rave and party at the beach. This is like their parents where the kids learned it from, you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We're living in a very strange time. And I think, with the whole Ben Stiller thing extending his hand and him getting angry that Larry didn't take it, that's part of it. Like, right? You wanted someone to take your hand, so now you're angry that no one took it. Like,
100%.
you don't see the problem with your snot ridden hand. People just don't have perspective these days.
Or even if you kind of like dabbed, sorry, I have a
Uh-huh.
frozen shoulder on
Yeah.
this shoulder. Yeah, if you did this and extended your arm, that could very well creep down that way, right?
Yeah. There's
If I
not.
dabbed the sneeze or a cough, I wouldn't even think of pre-COVID.
Yeah. Like that's courtesy because you're thinking, okay, I did something. I don't want you to be subject to it. It is selfish for somebody to sneeze in their hand and give it to you. That's silly, but I'm sure this happens all the time, and people are just not aware of, or they're not self-aware, right? They're not self-aware of the things that they do affecting the people around them. This is the whole thing. This is the whole COVID argument.
Brilliant close, Joe Vans.